Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 1 of In Progress, the podcast for Christian women who are very ambitious. In Progress is a faith-based podcast for women who want more from life, who are very ambitious, but you struggle with consistency. And I'll be speaking from the middle of the journey, not from the end. I created this podcast to share with you guys that certain struggles are normal and everybody goes through them. I don't see a lot of people out there obviously talking about the lows. Everybody talks about highs so often, but I want to make sure we're going through this journey together. And I'm sharing with you tips and tricks that have helped me keep going, that have helped me actually achieve the things that I have set my mind to. And if I don't achieve them, I'm not going to lie to you. We're going to get through it together. So if you're a girl who starts, stops, you feel guilty, you reset, you try again, this is for you. The goal is slow obedience, small habits, and learning how to keep going even when motivation stops hitting hard. So let's start off talking about the main core problem that all of us have, which is quitting easily or going at it from 0 to 100. How do we inherently stop quitting every goal that we start? And the goal of this podcast, again, is to tie it all back to the title, In Progress. You are still in progress. That is the point. Before we even begin, I want to say that I read anything Bible related in Portuguese, okay? So if I mess up any words in English in terms of reading out the Bible or getting through some sort of story, I am going to atone it to that. The fact that I read in Portuguese, that is my primary language. So Ecclesiastes would be Ecclesiastes in Portuguese. So if I am pronouncing that correctly, feel free to sound it out in the comments below if you want to. But Ecclesiastes 1:9, what has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. So I'm going to connect it to me first. I have this odd cycle of starting and stopping. Big dreams to complete, dreams that God has given me in order to continue and to steward it well and to water it until it grows. But I always fall into this start-stop cycle. And just to give you a small example, even with this YouTube channel, which I have the goal of this year of actually making it flourish and connecting it to something that immediately it tugs on my heartstrings. So it's my cycle. I struggle with this as well. So starting and stopping. However, there have been points in my life where I have been able to complete a goal that I set myself off to. And I've realized that every single time I stop, it isn't because of laziness, period. I've seen a lot of videos that just attribute you stopping or not reaching your goals because of laziness. And I feel like it's very detrimental to us, especially as ladies, to just attribute everything to laziness. When if we dig deeper, we can find the source of us starting and stopping. So when I stop, it's usually because of one of these three things. So it's either I get bored, I get overwhelmed, or I get discouraged. So when I get bored, there's no new novelty. So as a person diagnosed with ADHD, novelty wears off fast for me. I have to find something to keep that dopamine hitting the same. And unfortunately, what I attribute to novelty is anything in the business realm, right? Or anything that's a challenge. So when I start a challenge and I'm totally in it for the first couple weeks, as soon as the novelty starts wearing off, that is when I quote unquote start feeling bored with the activity, even though there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. It's just that the dopamine in my head, it's not hitting the same. So I have to learn how to work around that, which I will be covering in the next couple of episodes. But if you feel overwhelmed, that's also an easy reason as to why you keep stopping your goals. Or if you feel discouraged. Feeling discouraged is, I tell you, I feel like it's one of the worst things ever because it can be a chain reaction. It can be from someone telling you that you're cringe, or you getting an offhand comment from a family member or from a quote unquote friend who is watching you and trying to be friendly, but in reality, all of those words that they just spat out at you settled into your heart as discouragement. So we need to keep an eye out for those things and learn how to combat against that. And that's where my want comes from. I want, alongside with all of you, to stop stopping. That is my goal. I want to stop stopping, and I want to bring you guys along with me. So in all of the goals that I have started and completed, I kept these things in mind. I wanted consistency. I wanted to trust myself. So how many times have you said you're going to do something for yourself, but at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I'll do it later, or you just end up not doing it because it's for you. However, if a friend calls you up and they're like, hey, can you pick me up at the airport at 4:00 in the morning? You're going to drop everything and go to pick them up because you have respect for them. You love them. You trust them. We need to have that same respect and trust and authority with our bodies. We need to respect ourselves. So the more we don't complete our words, the more we stop showing up for ourselves. That's where the seed of disrespect within our own bodies comes through. And every single time you end up not completing that goal or not achieving what it is that you set your heart out to achieve, that's when disappointment in yourself starts to hit. So it's kind of like digging yourself in a deeper hole and you don't get out of it because you never stop to think, hey, what are these effects? What is me not completing my goal causing to my own life, causing to my own body? So in Romans chapter 7, verse 8 says, for I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. Your desires are not the problem here. You inherently have that feeling like, hey, I want to do good to myself because I know that doing good to myself is going to affect others around me. They're going to see that shift within me and we're going to grow. However, you are not able to follow through with what you are saying. So what is it can we do? What is it that I have done that has caused change in me? And I can tell you something very specific. What I will tell you guys is that I realized that something had to change, right? The problem wasn't my motivation. The problem wasn't my decision making. The problem wasn't me not wanting to accomplish these goals, because every time I didn't accomplish it, I felt a deep sense of dread. And how many of you guys have felt the same thing where you say you're going to do something and 90 days passes by, you look at yourself, you're like, wow, I did not do what I set my heart out to do. And especially in this season with the new year coming in, how many of us have new resolutions, things that we would love to complete, but we haven't completed? This is the perfect time to try something different. If it didn't work in the past with you trying again the exact same way, we have to switch the way that we try and understand why it didn't work so that we can actually accomplish the goals that we are setting out to accomplish. And in a nutshell, I stopped trying to fix my motivation. What needed work was my path of discipline. So what actually made me keep going and actually helped keep that train rolling until I got to the destination. The problem wasn't the push off. So taking that train analogy, when a train pushes off, it's fine, it's chugging along. But at a certain point, there needs to be a moment where those wheels keep churning and they keep going by themselves. And I had to find something that kept me churning and going until that finish line. But what was it? In shortest terms, I lowered the bar on purpose. So I kind of looked at everything in a data analytics type of way. I looked at my previous goals. I looked at my previous tracking systems, looked at all of that. And what I saw in common is that there was a lot to accomplish all at once. And so when I didn't accomplish all of these things, so let's say to the gym every day, and then waking up at 6:30 in the morning every day, and then also making sure to make my bed every day, but then also making sure I'm eating 3 meals, but then also making sure I'm eating well, making sure that I'm drinking well, all of those, I looked at that list, and when I didn't complete it, I was like, great, the day is over. I missed one of those items. Oh, well, I can't do anything else. And that's where the problem is. We cannot go full force all at once. We need to give ourselves grace. We need to understand who we are inherently and go for it. Sure, are there some people who can look at that list and be like, no problem, I'm going to keep doing it and I'm going to keep going. Sure, but I'm talking to you and I here. We cannot have these big lists and try to change our entire lives from day to night. So that's why I'm a little bit against resolutions that have you do it all at once, because then that state of being overwhelmed drifts in and you give up. So what I was trying to do and what kept pushing towards is stop aiming for perfect days. It's starting with 1 or 2 habits and consistently going at them until I became a pro at those, and then moving forward. Now, am I saying that I was perfect that entire time? No, the answer is definitely no. Did I have days where I woke up and I didn't want to do it, and I was in one of my cycle periods and woke up being like, I don't want to do this anymore? The answer is yes. Now, what is consistent? Consistency does not mean doing the same task every day. That is not what consistency means. Consistency means developing some sort of habit and going back to it even if you have an off day. If I had an off day, I could not turn that 100 day and turn into a 0. I'd be like, okay, I messed up this one day. I'm going to give up for the rest of the week. And maybe I'll start on Monday, or this day is over. I had to change my mindset. If I woke up a little later, let's say I didn't wake up at 6:30 in the morning that day, but I did wake up at 8:30 naturally, what were the other habits that I had stacked that I am able to still do during that day in order to cross it off and then get back to the routine the next day? Losing one day does not mean you lost your progress. It just means you get an extra chance to prove to yourself that you have that habit ingrained in you and that you have self-respect because you were saying, I'm going to do this consistently, no matter if I have an off day or not. Because at the end of the day, we are all human. Jesus was the only perfect one. Have you guys seen his routine? He would wake up super duper early in the morning and go out and pray for at least like 3 hours in the morning before even starting on anything to talk to the Father. Now that's every morning. But even if Jesus had to rest during all of that crazy boat in the storm story, imagine us. We get tired so easily, especially as women. We are fragile. So I guess my point with this is give yourself grace and start small. Proverbs 24:16. For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. See, even the Bible is saying that we are going to fall, and this applies to all aspects of our lives, right? So whether it be the productivity that we're talking about, or whether it be sin or anything else, even though we might fall, we will rise again. That is basically the Bible telling you are going to fall. I recognize, even God recognizes that. So if God recognizes that, why wouldn't you? And since we have to recognize it, we have to find a way to work around that. And even though I fell many, many times, I still had those small wins that when I woke up the next day, I was like, I feel accomplished, even a little bit, because my mindset started to change. And I'm not telling you that I'm 100% fixed or anything, because I still have my low days. But as soon as I realized, it's like a switch flipped in my brain. When I realized that the small wins still matter, and it doesn't have to be big, crazy wins, especially when with those dopamine hits. Though it doesn't have to be something crazy. I don't have to do something drastic. I need to learn how to let those small dopamine bursts come through the day and make me satisfied and make me happy. So I had to let go of perfection. I had to let go of waiting to feel ready, of saying, okay, I'm ready on Monday. No, I have to feel ready today. No time is better than the present time. I had to accept that slow progress. Like, time is going to pass by either way. Time is going to flow by either way. Might as well start now and start putting together those small wins rather than have 0 wins at the end of, for example, a 90-day period, and have multiple small wins build up to that big win at the 90-day period, even if you aren't 100% perfect that entire time. Now, I still get bored. Guys, I do Taekwondo. Actually, right now, I am in the process of healing because I did have a surgery. So as of right now, I am not actively training. However, Taekwondo was something that I started mid last year, and it has been a struggle, but it's something that I have promised myself that I'm going to stick to. I was so excited about it for like the first month, the first 2 months, and I have an amazing trainer who really keeps my head level headed. And I told him, I was like, Grandmaster Jose, I need you to keep my head up. Even if I want to quit this sport, I need you to not let me quit because I love it. However, I told him, I was like, I noticed these patterns in myself. Once the novelty starts wearing off, I'll probably start making excuses. I'm probably going to do this, do that, but I need to keep going. And that's where all shifted, is having that. I know who I am. I know what I do. What are the systems that I can put into place in order to change how I am currently living? And that takes me to my biggest takeaway. You do not need to be perfect forever. You just need discipline for today. Don't think about forever. Forever is crazy. As humans, even thinking about God and him being eternal, I can't wrap my head around somebody being eternal, being there in the past and the present and the future and existing throughout all timelines. I can't wrap my head around that. Time is such an issue for us humans. We cannot take into account forever. We need to take into account today. Again, tying it back to the Bible. Lamentations 3:22-23. His mercies never fail. They are new every morning. So this means we have to think about new mercies every single morning. This is a daily process. It's day by day by day. And I know that feels overwhelming, but I promise you it is less overwhelming than thinking about it forever. Because if day by day goes, you're going to start shifting your focus. You're going to start understanding who you are, what you want to do, where you want to go. And you, as a person, will continue to change and you will continue to grow. Which leads me into the next episode where we'll be walking through how to build discipline when you get bored really, really fast, okay? Make sure you're following, subscribing, whatever it is that you need to do. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 1 of In Progress, and we will continue to be in progress every single week. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.